Hello dear viewers, my name is Nino and you're watching Nino's product reviews, and today we're going to take a closer look at Foscam's R4 camera. Now, as the name suggests, the R4 is the next step in the development of the camera known as R2. It is essentially the same camera on the outside with a bit better hardware specifications on the inside. So we're going to take, of course, a closer look as mentioned, but already I can tell you that the biggest upgrade here is the resolution. We now have a 2K resolution of this camera when compared to the R2's 1080p. So this camera is going to provide a better picture quality overall, give you more details, and therefore make it easier to recognize faces and recognize what's happening, especially if you have to guard a larger area. Now, the drawback here that I've noticed immediately is that this camera is only available in white. Now, my previous R2 was also a white camera, but in hindsight I should have gone with a black one, really, because the white camera tends to color a little bit up, so the plastic tends to become a bit yellowish if the camera stays next to a window and is exposed to the UV rays of the sun. And that is something that happened to me. If you can think of, for example, old Nintendo consoles, although those are much more extreme, this is very little, but I can imagine that this plastic will be also susceptible to things like cigarette smoke and stuff like that. So if you're a smoker, which I am not, but if you are one, you might want to consider, that stop smoking. It's not good for your health. But okay, let's get back to the camera. And first, of course, we're gonna unbox this device, and you will soon find out that when it comes to what's packed with the camera itself, it's pretty much your standard packaging with the R2. It's the same size of the camera, it's the same stuff that's packed up with it, it's the same box in which it comes. It feels very, very similar to the R2, but the price point is much higher here, and we almost have twice as much in terms of costs, but of course we have twice as much in terms of resolution, so that's a significant improvement. And again, this camera is going to be extremely useful if you need to guard a larger area. So if you have a small room or something like that you want to guard with the camera, the R2 is still going to be more than enough for you. However, this camera, due to the improved hardware, seems to also have slightly better color representation. Now, that might be my subjective feeling, but as I look at the recording, it looks really nice. HDR is off here, and I've said it many times, I'm not a fan of the HDR that comes with Foscam cameras. HDR generally is a problem because, especially with cameras that you can move and pan and tilt, it's a technology that requires a more static image to achieve the best performance, and that's not something that works well with cameras. But still, we have the streams in this case set to 2K at 60 Hz. We can mirror, of course, our image if we like, and mirroring of the image can be useful and I've said it before as well, if your camera, for example, is facing an actual mirror, so that way it will be corrected. You have the flip function, which is useful if you mount the camera upside down, and here we can zoom in, and while the zoom is still a software zoom, you're going to notice that the increased resolution still gives us great details when we zoom in, and you can still recognize faces and everything very, very nicely. Now, I'd like to apologize for the slightly lower feeling frame rate. This is also due to my internet. It's been especially slow today, and I only have a 6 megabit connection, so it's not very fast to begin with. Yet still, with 6 megabit, I can use this camera over Wi-Fi. This is a Wi-Fi recording right now that you're seeing, so it works very nicely. You can control the camera, you can pan and tilt it at will, you can move it upwards, downwards. You have your cruise functionality, and the cruise functionality is essentially the ability of the camera to constantly move left and right or up and down or on a set path that you define later in the settings. And this can be useful for some people. I personally don't see a point of it, especially because there are mechanical parts inside the camera that move it, and by activating this, you're essentially having more wear and tear because mechanical parts rub, etc. You're shortening these parts' lifespan, and you shouldn't use this unless it's necessary, is my point. Now, when it comes to the settings here, at first everything seems pretty standard, but Foscam have actually made quite a few improvements on their systems, and especially also on their mobile application, which now looks much nicer than before. I applaud that. And here we have stuff like setting up your clock, setting up your user accounts. Now, I have intentionally not set up these things right now because I don't want you to see all my security settings on my camera. for obvious reasons, but you know they are there and you can do them. Obviously you can set up your wireless connection to use Wi-Fi. Mail settings are very important if you want to receive emails whenever there's a alert activated. FTP settings are extremely important if you want to use an FTP save, which I have been doing and will be doing as well next to my cloud saving because I'm still using the cloud. DNS settings are very important if you want to access your camera from outside your home network and you do not want to use the Foscam solution. The Foscam offers you a solution, but that solution is going to stream your video through their servers first, and some people just don't want that. They feel like they don't like that. I personally don't see a reason to worry here, but everyone is allowed to have his own opinion. Now you have two streams, main and substream. Obviously the substream is going to be of much lower quality than the mainstream, and the intent here is that if you're outside of your network and your internet is slow, obviously transferring 2K onto a phone connection is not only going to pull your bandwidth, but it is also going to lead to some serious frame rating. That's why you want to have a substream that is low quality but still functional, so that you can see your stuff, you know, without having any of these frame rate issues. The privacy zone is an old function that makes a comeback here, which is very, very nice. I'm personally a huge fan of it. Let's imagine I don't want to be visible in this video. I'm going to mark myself. I'm going to click OK. And of course I have to click save here. I didn't do that at first and I was wondering what the hell I did wrong, so I just repeated it. But again, you mark an area you don't want to be visible, and you can mark several areas for that matter. You save, that's very important. And as you can see now, we're going to see that I'm covered. Now you can see that this rectangle is not exactly perfect. This is due to the wide angle lens of the camera. I can actually see quite a bit without turning too much towards stuff. That's really awesome. I really like the wide angle lens. It gives us additional control and additional field of view, so that's great. But consider that this black blob that we have there is only stuck to your screen. If you move the camera as I have demonstrated, whatever's behind it is going to become visible. Now why would you want to have this? Well, imagine that for example this is your bathroom. You don't want people to see who's going in or out. I don't know. It can have many reasons. You want to cover a part, you can do it. That's what matters. Now here we have the snapshot settings, and they basically define, tell your camera to take pictures at certain times and certain days, and you can define where the pictures are saved to, and what quality you want the pictures to be. This is not going to be a motion picture thing, a motion detection thing. It's going to be only whenever you set it up. Now the IR schedule, you can set it up manually so that you tell at what time the infrared LEDs should turn on. I don't mess with that because I'm very happy with the automatic detection. But if you want to do it, you have the ability. Your motion detection here is pretty flexible. You have a lot of settings, times, dates that you can modify. For example, you can set up store and guard it only during the night. You can set up if you want the camera to make noise, the PC to make noise, send emails, take snapshots, etc, etc. So you have a lot of functions. Sound detection is very important as well because this camera has a microphone and a speaker. So through the microphone, the camera can actually recognize if there's a loud noise, for example. For example, somebody breaks a window, you know, the camera will suddenly hear it and will start recording. However, this is difficult to do since the microphone isn't particularly good. So you will have to play with the sensitivity and find that sweet spot for you. It's not impossible, and it will depend on where your camera is positioned. It can be very useful. I personally don't use it because I have no need for it. Of course, you have a SD camera settings, but I haven't inserted an SD camera here, and pre-record. Now the pre-record is one of the coolest features ever. It basically tells the camera at this point to loop 5 seconds constantly. So it's always recording 5 seconds, then looping them, you know, overwriting. And if something happens, what will happen essentially is that the last 5 seconds before the initial alarm will be attached to the alarm. So let's imagine someone breaks into the room. So the camera is recording constantly. Suddenly someone breaks into the room, and the camera will then actually start the video from 5 seconds before he entered, then you see him enter, and etc. So that's very useful and very interesting, and I personally really like it. Local alarm recording time is essentially how long the video should be that you save on your PC's hard drive. It's very useful. I like it and I use it. Now schedule recording, we have one of the bigger changes here: record full strategy. And the full strategy can be stop or cover, and that's very interesting. Now stop means as soon as your, for example, a micro SD card reaches 256 megabytes of storage left, if you have selected stop, it will just not record anymore. If you select cover, it's going to overwrite the recording from before. So that's very useful, especially if you have a smaller card and, for example, you can only fit in 24 hours and you don't want to constantly manually delete. This is extremely useful for that. Alright, pan and tilt cruise settings are pretty obvious. Start option is obvious as well. It's basically where your camera is going to look at every restart. Now here you can manually do system upgrades and stuff like that, but I found that the mobile application is much more convenient because it automatically detects your firmware version. It offers you to download it from there, and it does that wirelessly, so you don't have to bother with any of that. If you want to update your camera, the easier way is just to install the application on your phone and go from there. So unfortunately, there's been another issue that I have to address here. More and more browsers are no longer supporting the Foscam plugin, and it's been a huge pain for me to figure out what to do. Now I have been using Firefox, but they stopped support for this, and now I'm using a special version of Firefox, which is called Firefox ESR, and that version actually still supports it. So what I advise you to do if you want to use the browser way to control your camera, like I do sometimes, actually this is my preferred method, is to first go to any search engine that you have and just look for Firefox ESR, and that's essentially going to send you to the Mozilla site for the Firefox ESR, and you can download it from here. Then disable the updates in your Firefox so you can always use this browser to control it however you like. This is what I do, and this is what I strongly suggest you do until we have another solution. So when it gets dark, your R4 has nothing to worry about. Its IR blasters are really strong. Everything within 10 meters is absolutely clearly visible. Well, after 10 meters, you'll be able to see that something's happening, but of course the reception, the visibility becomes much lower, simply because the IR blasters are not designed for that distances that great. But all in all, I'm very satisfied with it. As you can see, in a combination with the great resolution, this camera actually provides excellent night vision, which is not surprising for Foscam. They've generally had a good run when it comes to night vision. And if you take a look at my other reviews, especially one of my latest ones, you'll see that they've even stepped up their game even more. So another thing that I wanted to quickly address is the possibility to use the Foscam Cloud. Now, if you want to access your camera from outside of your home network and you don't want to deal with DDNS and stuff like that, you should definitely go to myfoscam.com, register there, and you will have access to this even without any kinds of subscriptions. If you do decide to subscribe, you will also have cloud saving of your motion detection alarms. So I'm just going to demonstrate what happens because I just purchased a month of these. I purchased the 30 days model, and I thought that it would be interesting for some people to see what it's like. So down there, as you saw, we have different videos at different times, and you can just select which one you like. This is one that was recorded. Now here, obviously, I knew I was going to record myself. I'm turning around, saying hi to the camera, etc. The video, you will notice, is not going to be the same quality as the video you have at home. It's only 720p, it's not 1080p or whatever other camera you have. But this is quite useful, and I'll tell you why. You see, this adds an additional layer of security. If, for example, someone were to enter your home and also steal your camera or your router or wherever, or your PC for that matter, all of the files you have from the burglary will be with the burglar. So this is an additional danger. Doing this actually helps you have files somewhere recorded on an external server, and which can essentially be accessed from pretty much anywhere. So you can always check it out. And the 720p footage is actually good enough, and will provide enough of a image quality for you to be easily able to recognize everyone. Now here you see the different plans. I have that one for $12.99, and I gotta tell you, there's some things to consider here. First of all, you will notice, as I've said, that it's only 720p, as you can see, but that has an advantage on its own. While at first it claims here that the alarm video will last only 40 seconds, that is not the case. For some reason mine lasts longer, and probably because I've set it up in the initial software of the camera. The good thing about that is, first, that you don't have a lot of, in terms of size of the videos. That means that your bandwidth will not be strained too much, because if you are leaving the alarm on the whole time and you move around the camera will be constantly sending information to the cloud and saving it. This is how it's with me, for example. I just find it easier that way. I don't have to deal with it, turning it on and off, you know, the alarm, even though I do it from the mobile phone. Now, a disadvantage here is that the subscription will only be for one camera, and that's pretty much it. So if you have like 2 cameras in your home or more, you need to actually subscribe for each of them individually. You can't even, the problem that I see with this is that you can't even change the camera. So if you were to upgrade your camera and you have a running subscription, you still got to use the old camera until that subscription is over, or just take a new one. Now another cool thing is that you can use the phone app and it works really well, as you can see here. Just really snappy all in all. Now it does seem like it's gonna be loading a little bit longer here, but that is actually because I had just started the Wi-Fi on this phone, and I had to wait a little bit for the first load to start, because I don't know why, it just took a little bit longer. Usually it doesn't take that long. But as you can see, you have the timer down there. You can change to live stream or to this stream, and the quality is absolutely sufficient. You can easily recognize me. That's me over there sitting on the computer doing my work. So the point of this was just to show you the general feel of the cloud service. I personally think that it is very good, and it's definitely worth its money. While it may not be cheap, essentially if you consider that it's just for one camera and stuff, for most people it will be quite enough, and it will add this additional layer of security I spoke about. Because essentially if you don't have it, you always run the risk that someone entering your home, stealing the physical camera with the SD card, stealing your PC, and then you have nothing in there. Thanks for watching my video and have a great day.